In today's episode, we're exploring 5 devastating zoo accidents that ended in tragedy, from a maintenance worker's fatal jaguar encounter to a security guard's deadly final shift. But first, let's begin with the first story, where one child's fearless nature cost him everything. It was August 14th, 2015, and the sprawling grounds of a privately operated zoological park outside Chicago buzzed with peak summer activity. Families moved steadily through shaded pathways, children pointing at animal exhibits, while parents searched for cooler spots beneath the towering oak trees. The polar bear habitat, one of the park's busiest attractions, drew a steady crowd of visitors eager to watch the massive Arctic predators dive into their chilled pool or pace along the rocky edges of their enclosure. 11-year-old Tommy Chen hurried ahead of his family, energized by the sight of the bear exhibit just a short distance away. A 5th grader from Oak Park, Tommy was known for his fearlessness and love of climbing, traits that often left supervising adults anxious. His parents stepped aside to buy refreshments from a nearby vendor, briefly leaving Tommy under the watch of his 16-year-old sister, Jessica, who had turned her attention to her phone while responding to messages from friends. The polar bear habitat featured a deep swimming pool bordered by artificial rock ledges, textured concrete, and decorative ice-like structures built to mimic the Arctic landscape. Safety railings, warning signs, and distance barriers kept visitors separated from the moat system and the lower enclosure levels where the bears roamed. The setup created immersive viewing angles while maintaining the required buffer zones between the public and the animals. Polar bears are among the largest land carnivores in the world. Adult males can exceed 1,000 pounds, and even the smaller females possess immense strength, capable of breaking through ice, rolling heavy rocks, and dragging large marine mammals across the snow. Their curiosity and investigative behaviors remain intact in captivity, and despite appearing calm to viewers, they react powerfully when startled or presented with unfamiliar movement inside their territory. Tommy was captivated by the 2 adult bears swimming below, watching the ripple of water as the animals surfaced and submerged. The decorative rocks that formed a sloped barrier seemed climbable to him, and the view from the top looked like the best angle for photographs. Recent rainfall had left the artificial surface slick, but Tommy's confidence, sharpened by years of climbing playground structures, overruled caution. He slipped past the initial railing with ease, his small frame fitting through a space where larger adults wouldn't attempt to pass. Visitors nearby called out warnings, raising their voices when they noticed the boy moving toward the restricted section, but their attempts weren't enough to break his concentration. Jessica, still absorbed in her phone, didn't realize Tommy had gone beyond the designated public zone. Tommy scaled the decorative rock ledge, gripping whatever edges he could find as moisture and algae residue made the surface more treacherous than it appeared. He reached upward toward a protruding ridge that would allow him to lean over and see directly into the polar bear habitat. His sneakers slipped on the wet rock, and before he could regain balance, his hand missed its intended hold. Tommy's body pitched forward, and he fell approximately 15 feet, landing hard on the concrete section near the pool's edge. The sound of impact echoed through the lower enclosure and immediately drew the attention of both polar bears. The male surfaced first, water shedding from his fur as he climbed out of the pool. Tommy lay motionless, his left leg twisted unnaturally from the fall. The injury left him unable to crawl or attempt to roll away from the approaching bears. The female exited the water as well, moving toward the unfamiliar figure on the ground. At first, the male bear approached cautiously, lowering his head to sniff along Tommy's clothing and exposed skin. In real-world behavior, polar bears begin by investigating any new object in their environment, often using their paws to test for movement. When Tommy made a slight, involuntary motion, a reflex from pain, the response was immediate. The bear pressed a massive paw onto Tommy's back, pinning him to the ground with a force no child could withstand. The female circled closer, stimulated by the movement and scent. Zoo security began receiving emergency calls from visitors within seconds, but the enclosure layout prevented immediate access. As guards positioned themselves at the viewing platforms above, the bear's behavior shifted from investigation to a more forceful response, triggered by Tommy's movement. The male gripped Tommy's upper body with his jaws, dragging him several feet across the concrete, while the female struck at his limbs and torso with repeated paw blows. These reactions were consistent with defensive and predatory instincts polar bears exhibit when encountering unfamiliar, vulnerable objects in their territory. Veterinary staff arrived with tranquilizer rifles, but neither bear presented a safe angle. Both remained remained positioned directly over Tommy, their movements preventing any shot that wouldn't risk hitting the child. Noise-based deterrence from the upper platform failed to draw the animals away. The attack lasted only moments, the bear's weight and force causing injuries that Tommy could not survive. When the bears finally stepped back, briefly distracted by staff activity, he showed no signs of life. Emergency personnel entered the enclosure only after the veterinary team sedated the male bear and secured both animals in their holding areas. Following the incident, the polar bear exhibit was closed for months as investigators examined barrier spacing, visitor flow patterns, and the decorative structures Tommy had scaled. The park reinforced physical barriers, revised railing designs, added continuous staff monitoring at high-risk exhibits, and increased signage clarity. Tommy's death led to a comprehensive reevaluation of the zoo's safety protocols, with new preventive measures implemented to better protect young visitors and prevent unauthorized access to restricted areas. But climbing wasn't the only way that zoo visits could turn deadly. In Texas, a maintenance worker's dedication to his job would lead him into a fatal encounter with one of nature's most efficient predators. It was October 7th, 2016, and the pre-dawn darkness enveloped a local zoo outside San Antonio as maintenance crews began their daily routines before the facility opened to the public. The crisp autumn air carried the sounds of awakening animals as staff members moved quietly through the pathways, checking enclosures and preparing for another busy day of education and conservation. Miguel Santos arrived at his usual time, his weathered hands carrying the tools and supplies needed for his morning inspection of the big cat exhibits. At 34, Miguel had built a reputation as one of the zoo's most reliable maintenance workers, his 8 years of experience making him a trusted member of the animal care team. The father of 2 young children took immense pride in maintaining the habitats that housed some of the world's most magnificent predators. His meticulous attention to detail and genuine care for animal welfare had earned him the respect of keepers and veterinarians throughout the facility. Miguel's morning routine included checking the jaguar exhibit for any overnight damage or debris that might pose safety risks to both animals and visitors. The South American big cats were housed in a state-of-the-art facility featuring dense vegetation, climbing structures, and multiple holding areas connected by service corridors that allowed staff to work safely while maintaining the cat's natural behaviors. Jaguars are the 3rd largest big cats in the world, with powerful builds that make them exceptional hunters both on land and in water. These solitary predators possess the strongest bite force of any big cat, capable of crushing turtle shells and caiman skulls with ease. Adult jaguars can weigh up to 250 pounds and move with silent stealth through dense vegetation, making them nearly invisible until they choose to strike. Their territorial nature and powerful hunting instincts remain fully intact in captivity. Miguel noticed that the gate leading to the service corridor behind the jaguar exhibit wasn't properly secured, the latch mechanism appearing to have been left open from the previous evening's feeding routine. His experience told him that such oversights needed immediate attention to maintain the strict safety protocols that protected both staff and animals. Miguel believed the jaguar was secured in its indoor holding area, based on the status indicator showing the animal had been shifted the previous night. He entered the service corridor to investigate the gate mechanism and clear a fallen tree branch that had blown into the area during the night. The narrow walkway provided access to multiple viewing points and maintenance areas, while keeping staff safely separated from the big cats by reinforced barriers and electronic monitoring systems. Miguel's radio remained clipped to his belt as he focused on the mechanical issue that needed his attention. The adult male jaguar had actually been resting in the tall grass near the service area, his spotted coat providing perfect camouflage among the shadows and vegetation. The big cat remained motionless as Miguel entered the corridor, his predatory instincts assessing this unexpected intrusion into his territory. Jaguars are ambush predators that rely on stealth and explosive power to overwhelm their prey, often attacking from behind with devastating efficiency. Miguel bent down to retrieve the fallen branch, his back turned to the area where the jaguar lay hidden. The big cat moved with silent precision, covering the distance between them in a single powerful leap that gave Miguel no opportunity to react or call for help. The jaguar's 200-pound frame struck Miguel with crushing force, driving him to the ground while powerful jaws clamped down on his neck and shoulders. The attack was swift and methodical, driven by territorial instincts, and the jaguar's jaguar's natural hunting behaviors. Miguel never had the opportunity to reach his radio, the ambush occurring too quickly for him to call for help. The jaguar's powerful bite force and razor-sharp claws inflicted fatal injuries within minutes of the initial attack. Miguel's supervisor discovered his body 20 minutes later during a routine check of the maintenance schedule, finding the service gate still open and signs of the violent encounter scattered throughout the corridor. The jaguar had returned to his normal resting area, showing no signs of continued aggression toward zoo staff who arrived to secure the scene. Emergency protocols were immediately implemented to ensure the safety of other workers while investigators documented the tragic accident. The incident prompted a comprehensive review of safety procedures and gate mechanisms throughout the facility, with new redundant systems installed to prevent similar oversights. Miguel's death highlighted the critical importance of communication protocols and backup safety measures when working around dangerous predators, leading to enhanced training programs for all zoo maintenance personnel. But mechanical failures weren't the only factor that could lead to deadly encounters. In Washington, a volunteer's compassion would override her safety training when she tried to help an injured bear. It was June 22, 2017, and the evening feeding routines at a small, privately run zoo outside Seattle were winding down as staff members completed their final animal care tasks of the day. The Pacific Northwest summer provided long daylight hours that allowed extended observation of animal behaviors, giving keepers valuable insights into the health and well-being of their charges. Sarah Mitchell moved quietly through the bear exhibit area, her veterinary training helping her assess the animal's conditions during the peaceful evening hours. At 28, Sarah had been volunteering at the zoo for 6 months while completing her veterinary studies at the University of Washington. Her gentle approach with animals and genuine passion for wildlife conservation had made her a valued member of the volunteer team. Though her supervisors occasionally noted her tendency to bend established protocols when she believed it would benefit the animals in her care, Sarah's academic background gave her confidence in reading animal behavior and identifying potential health issues. The grizzly bear exhibit featured multiple viewing areas and service corridors that allowed staff to observe and care for the massive predators while maintaining safe distances. Sarah had been assigned to assist with evening feeding documentation, recording behavioral observations, and noting any changes in the bear's appetites or activity levels. The routine work provided valuable experience with large carnivores while contributing to the zoo's research and conservation efforts. Grizzly bears are among North America's most powerful predators, with adult females weighing between 400 and 600 pounds and possessing incredible strength and speed. These omnivores are naturally wary of humans, but can become extremely aggressive when they feel threatened or cornered. Captive grizzlies retain all their wild instincts and can inflict devastating injuries with their massive claws and powerful jaws, making strict safety protocols essential for anyone working near their enclosures. During her evening observations, Sarah noticed that one of the female grizzlies appeared to be favoring her right front paw, occasionally lifting it off the ground and examining it with obvious discomfort. Her veterinary training immediately focused on the potential injury, and Sarah moved closer to the public viewing area to get a better assessment of the bear's condition. The animal's distress was clearly visible, and Sarah felt compelled to gather more detailed information before contacting the veterinary staff. Against established safety protocols, Sarah used a staff access panel she had previously observed keepers use, allowing her to slip into the service corridor without proper authorization. The narrow walkway was designed for maintenance access and emergency situations, not for close observation of potentially injured animals. Sarah believed her veterinary background qualified her to make a preliminary assessment that could help the zoo's medical team respond more effectively. The injured grizzly noticed Sarah's presence in the restricted area and approached the fence line with obvious agitation. The bear's stress from her injured paw, combined with the unexpected human presence in a normally secure area, triggered defensive behaviors that Sarah failed to recognize in time. The 500-pound female began testing the fence barrier, her powerful claws and massive strength finding a section of secondary mesh that had been flagged for repair earlier in the week after storm-driven debris bent one of the support brackets. The damaged mesh panel partially collapsed, creating a narrow gap along the maintenance partition that allowed the injured grizzly to push through into the adjacent service corridor. The narrow space provided no escape route as the injured bear charged with explosive speed speed, her defensive instincts overriding any natural wariness of humans. Sarah's veterinary training had not prepared her for the reality of facing an aggressive grizzly in an enclosed space. The bear's massive paws struck Sarah with bone-crushing force, driving her against the concrete wall while claws raked across her torso and limbs. Once she was on the ground, the grizzly's powerful jaws clamped down on her head and neck, its weight pinning her to the floor of the corridor. The attack was driven by defensive instincts rather than predatory behavior, but the result was equally devastating. Zoo security arrived within minutes of the first emergency alert, but the confined space and the bear's continued aggression made immediate intervention impossible. The veterinary team deployed tranquilizer equipment, while other staff worked to create distractions that might draw the grizzly away from Sarah's motionless form. The injured bear eventually retreated to a corner of the enclosure, allowing rescue personnel to reach Sarah, but her injuries were already fatal. The incident prompted an immediate shutdown of the bear exhibit, while structural engineers and animal care staff conducted a full containment review. The zoo implemented stricter volunteer restrictions, new multi-step access controls, and reinforced maintenance protocols around large carnivore enclosures. Sarah's death underscored the importance of adhering to established safety procedures, prompting long-term policy updates across staff training programs. But volunteers weren't the only professionals at risk in zoo environments. In New York, a photographer's pursuit of the perfect shot would put him face-to-face with a Siberian tiger in a space designed for safety. It was March 18, 2014, and a regional wildlife park outside New York City showcased its newly completed tiger habitat beneath the professional lighting equipment that photographer David Park had spent the morning setting up. The 42-year-old freelance photographer had been hired to capture promotional images for the park's marketing campaign, his portfolio of wildlife photography making him the ideal choice for highlighting the impressive Siberian tigers in their new enclosure. The late winter afternoon provided ideal lighting conditions for the dramatic shots that would support the facility's conservation messaging. David had built his reputation on patience and technical skill, often spending hours waiting for a moment when an animal's natural behavior aligned perfectly with his camera's frame. His experience working in wildlife parks across the country had taught him to follow strict safety guidelines while capturing the power and presence of the world's most dangerous predators. The park's new tiger habitat featured multiple viewing areas and updated safety systems designed to give visitors immersive views while maintaining secure separation from the animals. The Siberian tiger habitat featured expansive outdoor areas connected to indoor holding facilities through a network of tunnels and corridors that allowed the massive cats to move freely while providing staff with safe access for feeding and medical care. David had been photographing through the reinforced glass viewing areas, capturing stunning images of the 400-pound male tiger as he moved through his territory with fluid grace. Siberian tigers are the largest cats in the world, with adult males weighing up to 660 pounds and measuring over 10 feet in length. These apex predators possess incredible strength, speed, and hunting instincts that make them among the most dangerous animals in any zoo collection. Their powerful jaws can crush bone with ease, while their razor-sharp claws and muscular build allow them to take down prey many times their own size. Even in captivity, Siberian tigers retain all their natural behaviors and territorial instincts. While reviewing his images, David noticed that a maintenance access door showed an incomplete latch from earlier repair work, leaving it not fully secured. His photographer's eye immediately recognized the opportunity for unique angles and perspectives that would be impossible to achieve from the public viewing areas. David believed the tiger was secure in its main enclosure, unaware of the connecting tunnel system that provided the big cat with access to multiple areas. David entered through the unlatched maintenance door, believing it was part of the approved staging area for his photography setup. The narrow service corridor provided access to various parts of the exhibit, while keeping staff separated from the tigers through multiple barrier layers. David positioned his equipment near a small viewing port that offered a unique angle he couldn't achieve from the public side. Unknown to David, the tiger had access to an adjacent holding pen via a tunnel, and a secondary holding gate had not fully seated after the morning cleaning routine, creating a gap large enough for the tiger to push through into the keeper access zone. The massive predator had been been resting in the tunnel system when David's presence and the sound of camera equipment triggered his territorial instincts. The 400-pound Siberian tiger pushed through the misaligned holding gate and stepped into the narrow keeper access area, his massive frame filling the confined space as he assessed the unexpected human presence. David turned from his camera setup to find himself face-to-face with 400 pounds of apex predator in a space barely wide enough for both of them. The tiger's massive head was less than 6 feet away, his amber eyes fixed on David with predatory intensity, while his powerful muscles tensed for action. David's camera equipment blocked his path to the exit door, while the tiger's position prevented any possibility of retreat. The tiger attacked with explosive power, striking David's chest and shoulders first and driving him against the concrete wall. Claws raked across his torso as the confined space amplified the impact, scattering his camera equipment across the floor. Once David was down, the tiger's powerful jaws clamped onto his head and neck, leaving him unable to escape. The attack was swift and driven by territorial instincts, the tiger reacting to an unexpected presence in its space. Zoo security responded to the emergency alerts within minutes, but the narrow corridor and the tiger's continued aggression made immediate intervention extremely dangerous. The veterinary team worked to tranquilize the massive cat, while other staff attempted to create distractions that might allow access to David's location. The tiger eventually retreated to his main enclosure, but David had already succumbed to his catastrophic injuries. The incident prompted an immediate shutdown of the tiger exhibit, while containment specialists and investigators conducted a full review of the holding systems and access points. The zoo implemented stricter access controls, reinforced door hardware, and revised contractor protocols to prevent unauthorized entry into restricted areas. David's death underscored the importance of maintaining clear separation between non-animal staff and the predators housed within the facility. But even the most experienced zoo professionals weren't immune to deadly encounters. In Illinois, a security guard's routine patrol would become his final shift when a system malfunction put him face-to-face with an agitated silverback gorilla. It was September 11th, 2013, and the darkened pathways of a mid-sized wildlife park outside Chicago lay silent beneath the soft glow of scattered security lights. The cool autumn air carried faint rustling from sleeping animals as night shift security guard Robert Hayes began his 2 a.m. patrol. At 51, Robert had spent 12 years protecting the park's collection of rare species, taking pride in ensuring the grounds remained secure during the quiet hours when only a handful of staff remained on site. His calm temperament and thorough approach made him one of the most trusted members of the night crew. Robert's responsibilities included checking exterior fencing, verifying that service doors were properly locked, and ensuring no storm damage or attempted break-ins had occurred. His ring of keys granted access to maintenance corridors and buffer zones, not the primary animal enclosures, but enough that he could inspect infrastructure without needing a keeper present. The wildlife park, which operated without formal accreditation, relied on a mix of older mechanical systems and newer electronic components that required routine attention, especially after heavy rain and high winds. The Great Ape House was one of the park's older structures. Inside were gorillas and orangutans housed in interconnected indoor habitats, each with holding pens separated by steel mesh, sliding gates, and manually latched doors. Unlike large accredited zoos with multi-layer interlocks, this facility depended heavily on proper manual latching and periodic mechanical inspections. Recent storms had caused intermittent power surges in the building, and maintenance teams had been scheduled to review the containment system later that morning. Western lowland gorillas are powerful primates, with adult silverbacks often weighing more than 350 pounds and capable of delivering tremendous force through their arms and upper body. They are generally calm animals, but sudden movements, bright lights, or unexpected intrusions into their space can trigger intense defensive reactions. In captivity, these natural instincts remain unchanged, making secure barriers and predictable routines essential for staff safety. When Robert approached the exterior of the Great Ape House, his flashlight beam caught what appeared to be storm-related damage on a section of protective fencing that lined the outside of the building. Several metal bars showed fresh bends, likely caused by falling branches. Wanting to assess whether repairs were urgent, Robert unlocked the maintenance buffer gate, leading into the narrow service corridor that separated the public viewing area from the primary barriers. Unbeknownst to him, a mechanical mechanical slide gate inside the ape holding area had not fully seated after an earlier cleaning cycle. A piece of debris lodged in the track prevented the gate from locking into place, though a faulty sensor still displayed it as secured. With the gate slightly misaligned, a 350-pound male gorilla had slowly worked it open during the evening hours, entering the keeper access zone, a space that should have remained empty overnight. Robert stepped into the dimly lit service corridor, directing his flashlight toward the damaged exterior fence. His attention was focused upward as he traced the bent metal, unaware that soft shuffling sounds behind him were not part of the building settling. The silverback, already agitated by the storm, by unusual smells, and now by the sudden intrusion of light into a normally quiet area, moved toward the glow. When Robert turned at the faint scuffing behind him, the gorilla was already closing the distance. The 350-pound animal charged with explosive strength, crossing the short span of concrete before Robert had time to raise his radio. Massive fists struck his upper body with devastating force, slamming him backward into the wall. The impact knocked the radio from his belt, leaving him unable to call for help. The silverback's attack was driven by defensive instinct, its powerful arms wrapping around Robert's torso as it attempted to neutralize the perceived threat. The gorilla's grip compressed Robert's ribcage, pinning his arms while repeated blows rendered him unconscious within seconds. Any movement Robert made intensified the gorilla's response, as instinct signaled the need to eliminate a danger within its space. The assault lasted only moments, but the confined corridor magnified its severity. Once Robert stopped moving, the silverback released him and retreated to a corner near the misaligned gate, chest heaving as adrenaline subsided. The building fell silent again except for the low hum of emergency lights flickering overhead. Robert's absence went unnoticed until his 3 a.m. check-in was missed, prompting another guard to retrace his patrol and find his broken flashlight and motionless body in the service corridor. Emergency protocols activated immediately, and staff tranquilized the silverback before securing the area. Investigators later confirmed debris in the gate track and a faulty latch sensor that had incorrectly signaled the barrier as locked. The Great Ape House was shut down for repairs, with new redundant locks and revised overnight access rules implemented. Robert's death highlighted the risks posed by aging systems and reinforced the need for stricter safeguards. Thanks for watching. Click the next video for the next stories that will show you other stories like these.